tiny Jewish quarter of Old Jerusalem in Arab hands. The first UN truce is on, but Glub Pasha's legion has never stopped bringing in men and war supplies. Snipers continue to harass the handful of non-combatants remaining. Throughout the mile-square city, looters go about their grim business, carrying off household goods, furniture, anything removable. And Abdullah, king of Transjordan, inspects his costly conquests, celebrating in the storied Mosque of Omar. But at Lake Success, other men are busy. Count Folk Bernadotte arrives with Krigberlee to report on the truce and related matters. June 11, 1948, Security Council members have agreed on a temporary measure with Israel's UN representative, Aubrey Eben, a 4-week truce. From Bernadotte, they hear the story, how Arab armies, in defiance of UN, struck the day of Israel's Freedom Declaration. And how the ancient city, captured 5 times before, twice destroyed, fell once again to the invaders. How the Jewish defenders of Jerusalem struck back. How Catholic Notre Dame Hospital became an Arab stronghold when the siege grew most intense. But all this while, Jerusalem's citizens, young and old, had been more firmly digging into what they already firmly held, their own new modern city of 100,000. And with them, the Haganah, an army like no other in the world, youthful, self-disciplined, an army that did not fight for pay. Cocoon, in the heart of the Arab hill country, was an early target, well defended by Iraqis, and Cocoon fell. Arab elders who remained behind pointed the way of their retreating forces. Arab soldiers who refused to fight shot by their own officers. So it was before the short-lived truce. July 9th, and expiration of the ceasefire order found the Israeli army again on the move. New arms were beginning to swell their fighting strength, and there were the men and women themselves, members of one of the world's most democratic armies. No brass hats, each man strong and confident in the knowledge of why he fought. Women on casualty lists were fewer now, withdrawn from frontline duty. As the offensive continued on all fronts, Arab prisoners grew more numerous. Soon there were more than 5,000, among them ex-Nazi officers and SS guards. On the diplomatic front as well, the young state was striding forward. To the first Washington reception of their government, tendered by its representative, Eliyahu Epstein, came James McDonald on the eve of his departure as first U.S. envoy to the Jewish state. U.S. Major General Hildring and representatives of 15 countries. But in Egypt, Abdullah and King Farouk were forging an alliance of another kind. July 8th, breaking the truce, Egyptian planes roared over Tel Aviv. The other Arab states attacked. Unsuccessful at taking the well-defended cities, They made their targets small, isolated settlements in the north and in the south. This was such a settlement. And this, the end result. Meantime, in New Jerusalem, waiting for the truce to end, Israeli strategists mapped their campaign. With the old city in Arab hands and main supply routes to Jerusalem cut off, a new lifeline was necessary. Jewish engineers working secretly in burning summer heat provided the answer. The Marcus Road, named in memory of David Marcus, American commander of the Haganah who saved Jerusalem. It was a miracle of sweat and toil, this Marcus Road, carved out of forbidding granite hills under the unsuspecting noses of the Arab Legion, a Jewish Burma road, but 2 weeks only in the building. Soon, across its narrow, twisting 6-mile stretch, vital food, fuel, and water were pouring into the impoverished Holy City. History will tell how the Marcus Road saved Jerusalem's Jews from defeat by starvation. Now, help was coming in by other routes as well. A Hadassah plane brought American medical supplies to a secret air base not far from Jerusalem. The siege was over. In June, the war in Israel came sharply home to Americans with the body of the first former U.S. officer killed in the Holy Land. Escorted by 2 Israeli colonels, it returned to high civic honors at New York City Hall and a West Point burial. Colonel David Marcus, defender of Jerusalem, was 47 when a bullet felled him a few hours before the truce began. For thousands who knew and loved Mickey Marcus as soldier, lawyer, or simply as neighbor, the war in Israel can nevermore be very far away. Shortly before his death, the UN-sponsored truce had been implemented. The first United Nations police force, armed but without ammunition, was on its way to Palestine. As emissaries in the 4-week truce, Arab and Jew were once again able to set aside hostilities and compare notes on a friendly basis. An exchange of prisoners was arranged. In the old city of Jerusalem, the nurses and children of the French hospital were finally evacuated. The destruction was everywhere appalling. The men of Haganah proved that a GI's a GI the world over. But the fruits of peace tasted best to those who at that moment were en route under Red Cross escort to no man's land. In this barren, rock-encrusted landscape, a transfer of prisoners had been arranged. Jewish women settlers from famed Kfar Etzion in the Hebron Hills, long prisoners of the Arabs, were coming home. They had been treated well, but no words could express their gladness. Israel today is in action on every front, building a state, building an army to defend that state, preparing for its greatest era of colonization and development. And today, the underground fighters of Haganah come out into the open. At the first official review of the Israeli army, they swear loyalty to the new state. I pledge to dedicate my strength and life to the defense of the homeland and the freedom of Israel.